Talk 49.
I'm talking to Maximilian ACS. Maximilian ACS, thank you very, very much for joining us. And we're talking about water.
Thank you for having me.
Maximilian ACS, water. What is the truth as you see it about water? Some people say we haven't enough, there's too much, and.
Well, I personally think that water is very important for everybody. It's the basis without which you can't live. And it really much depends on where you are on the earth, how much water you have. But I think there would be many opportunities for everybody to have enough water.
You said where we are. Why should it matter where we are? Why can't we transport water?
Well, to the question where we are in Middle Europe, and we have more water reserves here than, for example, in Africa. I mean, they have a lot of water there as well, but they can't access it, or don't have the technology or whatever. Yeah, but transporting water would solve that problem, and I think one should and could use the ocean as a means of producing new fresh water for the people there.
Well, we'll come back to the ocean in just a minute. First of all, let's just talk about transporting water. We can transport oil great distances in pipelines. We can transport gas in very long pipelines. Why can't we transport water in very long pipelines?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think, I mean, I think many people have asked themselves that same question, but I don't think that it has ever been considered to be a big option. I don't know what the problems could be with transporting water like oil or gas or other materials, but I think it would be possible from my point of view, and it would solve many problems on Earth.
Of course, water must follow people. In these small islands, tourist islands like Mallorca, they bring 3 oil tankers, not oil tankers, but tankers, fill up with water from Norway. Isn't there a better way of doing this?
Well, I think there will be there definitely is a better way of doing this. For example, you could put up desalination facilities on islands or coastlines with pipes connected to bigger cities. These could run underground or wherever it's most suitable. I think it would be a massive project, very expensive, but at the end of the day it would pay off very much for everybody, and I believe it would solve the question of water shortage in the coming future.
Water shortage, there is enough water in the world, isn't there?
Yes, there is enough water. The only problem is that I don't know how many, but a high percentage of that water is salt water, so we can't drink it.
But as you said, desalination plants, then we can drink it.
Yes, exactly. If you would put those plants up, then you could turn salt water into drinkable water and transport it to the population. And you could also use it in other areas like agriculture.
That's a very good point. Irrigation, we need water to irrigate. You've got irrigation means water, fresh water, and fresh water you can put on crops and trees will grow. In a sense, will this help the climate change with the new kind of climate we could produce?
Well, I think it would play an important part in saving lives due to the weather becoming constantly hotter and hotter. As for a long-term solution, I think it would also play a very big part in that, but there are other measures that must be taken.
Such as?
Such as planting new trees, changing our systems like cars into electric cars, and just basically maybe reduce flights or plant more trees in the rainforest or protect those areas.
It's interesting, you said we should plant more trees, but if we irrigate more with the water we get from desalinization plants, we would be planting more trees, wouldn't we?
Yeah, sure. It would play a huge part in that and to keeping the trees from dying basically in the big heat. Yeah.
Yeah, and trees create their own climate somehow. They cool things down, don't they?
Yes, they do. There is a big difference between cities and forests, as I think everybody can imagine. If you go into a forest, it's much cooler even in the summer. So the amount of trees, if that would increase, that would make the whole climate and the weather much better.
What about recycling of water? If, for example, you transport your water to the cities through a big pipe from your desalinization plant, the water's going to keep on coming and coming and coming, and then the wastewater could be used to irrigate trees and gardens in the city instead of throwing it away.
Yes, or be used in other parts like areas where you don't necessarily need fresh water for cleaning and those jobs that have to be done, but also in irrigating. And it would be a very good way of to recycle the water.
Okay, and what about actually turning water into electricity? Of course, we need electricity to drive these desalinization plants, but then, theoretically, we could pump water up to the top of a big tower, and then send it down and turn it into electricity on the way.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think using water as a source of electricity isn't a bad idea, but one can't really rely on that only source because you need a lot of electricity to pump the water up in those towers. And the big question is, where do you get that electricity from?
You get it from the... you could use the towers to produce the electricity to run the...
Yeah, the question is, would it be enough? I don't know that, but it could be enough, then that would be a great solution. But if it's not enough, then we would have to look into other ways for sustainable electricity.
What about using this electricity at least to charge up our car batteries for our electric cars?
Yeah, that definitely would be a great idea. And I think all aspects of this way of getting electricity should be explored and built upon.
So this would actually be a very friendly way of producing electricity.
From what I can say, yes.
And then we could all drive our electric cars.
Yeah, if the infrastructure allows it, yes.
Yeah, what about the infrastructure? In Vienna, they've cancelled the Lobau tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Is this okay? Because if all predictions were to be correct, nobody will be driving cars in 50 years anyway. Therefore, we're not going to need this thing anyway. But maybe because we're all going to be driving electric cars, who knows, we will need it.
Yes, well, those are big questions. I think with regards to the tunnel, I don't know how well it was planned or what the positive or negative aspects were, but I do believe that having a effective infrastructure is the way to go, and it's just a way of modernization, and it is necessary. And if we drive electric cars in 20, 30, 40 or maybe 50 years time, we will need those roads, and maybe by then there will be good ways of building new roads.
We do, of course, need water for atomic power stations, nuclear power stations,
Yeah.
for the cooling.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
So transporting of water is essential.
Yes, it is. Water is essential in, I believe, every part of our lives. So, for life and for other parts, yeah.
And of course, we all like putting salt on our chips. At the desalinization plant, we can have lots of spare salt, aren't we?
Yes, we do, and we could use that salt for gastronomy or other ways. Yeah, cooking.
Or putting back on the roads when the weather turns bad, as it always used to do.
Yeah, well, maybe we can stop climate change or the effects of it, and maybe we'll have a normal winter again.
Well, we're having one now, or
Yeah, we are, I mean, but like for the future.
yeah. So really, the answer: what percentage of the world's surface is covered with water? Actually,
90%?
Right.
I've no idea.
A lot.
A lot, yeah, but I think it's not going to be a problem to find water, like salt water. It's everywhere, basically.
Yeah, because the ice is busy melting,
Yes.
and that means the oceans are rising up and up and up. So we've got all this spare water all of a sudden.
Yes, and it has to go somewhere, so why not just use it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we really need desalinization plants, and they really work. I read something about Saudi Arabia. Could you tell us something about that?
Yes, I believe they have huge desalinization plants with which they can support entire cities with water. It's basically their main source of getting water, as far as I know, and I believe it's effective, and it's good. It's the future, basically.
They say that water could be the cause of wars in the future because there's simply not enough of it. Wouldn't this desalinization project take this, sort of stop this threat of wars?
Yes, if it's implemented correctly and everybody has access to it, then it would solve many problems. It would solve big masses of people migrating because of water shortages as well, for example. Then people wouldn't lose their homes and could stay wherever they are. But for that you need the desalinization plants, the real infrastructure to support it, and the infrastructure in the whole country to supply the people with the water they need.
So it's a win-win situation. With our desalinization plants, we can irrigate our fields and grow more potatoes and make more chips. And with salt from the desalinization, we could put salt on our chips.
Yes, exactly.
And also we could grow, or farm would be a better word, fish in it. What about fish farming?
Fish farming in desalinization facilities.
Oh.
I don't know if that's possible, but I think that would be an aspect one would have to think about, because it sucks in a huge amount of water, and it could be possible that there's loads of fish coming with it while they're doing it, but I'm not sure about that. It could be a challenge.
It could be a challenge to have hundreds of fish farms all around the coasts of Europe and all around the world.
Yeah, it would change our diet.
It would, but we'd still have the potatoes for our chips, wouldn't we?
Yeah, then we can have fish and chips.
With salt,
Yes.
which is very, very, very essential. And maybe if we do succeed in lowering the climate, winters will come back as they should.
Yes, definitely.
And if this works, then really maybe electric cars won't be such an issue. We could still carry on using petrol cars.
Well, I'm not sure about petrol cars anymore, because I think now there's a big change in that area. But I think petrol cars will be around for another few years, maybe 40, 50, 60 years.
What do you prefer, electric or petrol for your car?
Well, I think it would depend on the infrastructure. If I could drive around everywhere with my electric car without any issues, and with a possibility to load it up everywhere I go like normal petrol cars, then I would just go with the electric car. But if not, then I would just stick to the petrol car. Yeah.
What happens when you can no longer stick to your petrol car, because then it won't be made anymore?
Well, then hopefully then the infrastructure will be there to support electric cars, so I won't have to worry about that.
Yeah, sure. And of course, for keeping good feelings, we can make much more wine with our desalinized. We could start making wine everywhere, couldn't we?
Yeah, if the climate allows it, yes.
And the climate will allow it because we're putting it right with water.
Yeah.
Yeah, so walking across the desert won't be such a bad thing anymore.
No, but I think it won't change like big deserts and those areas. I think that will stay the same how it was before, but it will be it won't be too hot anymore to grow the crops you grew 30 years ago in the same area. But it won't turn deserts into beautiful places because I don't know if that's just a possibility.
The deserts used to be beautiful places. Underneath the Sahara Desert, there's a huge lake that we can't get to because it's too deep.
Okay.
How about accessing these sort of places as well?
Well, I think if it's necessary, one could, but I just don't know how.
Yeah, that seems to be a problem. But anyway, so in a nutshell, we have the future everywhere.
Yeah.
In the form of water.
Yes, we do.
So we won't need to make water powder anymore.
No.
Maximilian ACS, thank you very much for talking to us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Talk 49.